We come to the last of the 6 tales which make up the first half of Daniel. In terms of chronology, the section ends with the note that Daniel lived on into the reign of Cyrus the Persian, who would send the exiles back to Judah to rebuild the temple. The second half of the book is a series of visions written now in the first person from Daniel's perspective. Chapters 7 and 8 contain visions which date from the Babylonian Empire. Chapter 9 dates from the reign of Darius the Mede, and chapter 10 to the end is under Cyrus. As has been noted in earlier videos, Daniel as a Jew trapped in a foreign court bears resemblance to the Joseph and Esther stories. Our chapter today is particularly like Esther. In Esther, a senior courtier is jealous of a Jew and tricks the king into issuing a law which cannot be repealed, which will condemn the object of his jealousy by annihilating all the Jews in the empire. The king is upset when he realizes what has happened, but cannot do anything about it. Esther finds a way around it by exposing herself as a Jew, and the courtier as the one who wants to kill all the Jews. The courtier and all his family are executed. The unrepealable law must proceed, but its effects are reversed, as the Jews are allowed to arm themselves and surprise their attackers. In Daniel, senior courtiers are jealous of his continual promotions and trick the king into issuing a law which cannot be repealed, one which is certain to catch Daniel out. When the king realizes what has happened, he is very upset, but cannot do anything. The law proceeds, and this time God intervenes directly, and Daniel is preserved. His accusers are executed along with their entire families. But if God is only implied and not mentioned in the story of Esther, here in Daniel he is front and center. The courtiers know they can catch Daniel because he is faithful to his God. They have seen him praying 3 times a day in his upper room, which was a small room on one corner of the flat roof of his house. This is the test for Daniel, which he must pass. In Genesis, Joseph is tested by the lust of Potiphar's wife. He refuses to sin against God, as he puts it in Genesis 39:9. Esther is tested by fear. She can hide her Jewish identity, or she can reveal it and stand with her condemned kindred. But she responds to Mordecai's suggestion that perhaps she has been put in this position for such a crisis. By obeying this suggestion and asking all the Jews to fast for her, she commits her fate to God, though he is not mentioned. She says in 4:16, "If I perish, I perish." Daniel's test is about worship. Verse 10 says that even though Daniel knew the document had been signed, he continued his custom of praying to God 3 times a day and knew he would be spotted doing so. The text could have been worded to say that Daniel kept praying as he always did, and so might have been caught out unaware of the new edict. But the point is that Daniel did know and did it anyway. In this way, he is like Esther, who says, "If I perish, I perish," or like his 3 friends at the door of the furnace, who say in chapter 3, 16 to 17, "If our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the furnace of blazing fire and out of your hand, O king, let him deliver us. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods, and we will not worship the golden statue that you have set up." But Daniel is given no dialogue here, and we know that he shares the same outlook of Esther and his friends. His life is in the Lord's hands. All he can do is obey. God will do what he will. Instead, it is the king himself who utters the words of hope in verse 16. "May your God, whom you faithfully serve, deliver you." Darius is very well disposed towards Daniel. It says in verse 14, he made every effort to rescue him. And in verse 18, he spent the night fasting, like all the Jews, for Esther, and he did not sleep. At the first opportunity, at the break of day, he hurries to the den and asks, "O Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you faithfully serve, been able to deliver you from the lions?" Daniel replies, "My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths so that they would not hurt me." Daniel's God has done what the king could not, nor any other supposed God. Therefore the king, who is described as exceedingly glad Daniel survived, issues a proclamation to the entire kingdom, decreeing that Daniel's God should be feared. He is the living God who endures forever, whose kingdom and dominion have no end, unlike all the other great kingdoms of the earth, including his own. This is the subject of the first vision in the following chapter. But the story ends here on a great reversal. The king was persuaded to order all worship be directed to himself. In the end, like Nebuchadnezzar, who was humbled for 7 years, Darius proclaims to his entire empire the truth of who God really is. It is interesting to realize that the following vision of chapter 7 happened some time before the events of chapter 6. Thus, Daniel, by the time he is tested to worship Darius and save his own life, has already seen the Ancient of Days, enthroned and attended by thousands upon thousands. Nothing he has seen on earth remotely compares to what he has seen in heaven. Daniel knows better than anyone else who the real king is.